afternoon.
My name is Heidi Dilchen. I have been a Montessori educator for about 18 years, and I am very happy to say that I was trained under Dr. Tulloss. So to me, this is not just a pleasure, but an honor to introduce her. She is not just my mentor. I consider her a very good friend of mine and of my family. So let me tell you a little bit about her. I know a lot of you know her here. Actually, everybody knows her in Florida. But Dr. Tulloss is a trained chemist, and we all know that. And she went to Northwestern University and then decided to pursue education once she became a mother. She became a certified Montessori educator in early childhood first, and then in elementary 1 and 2. Her educational experience includes teaching from infancy to graduate school and directing her own school. She organized a graduate program, which is Barry University, and she was here for 18 years. She gives workshops in language development and reading, hands-on mathematics, physical and life science, classroom management, and music, and much, much more than that. She's also a ballroom dancer, very good one, a trained organizer, and that's true, a Toastmaster, and the Theosophist. So here's Dr. Tulloss, and please welcome her.
Thank you all for coming. The first thing I want you to do, thank you Heidi for a beautiful introduction. The first thing I want you to do is just get whatever piece of paper you have and write 7 words. Don't deliberate what words, just write 7 words. And once you're finished, raise your hand so that we can start reading them. So, is anybody ready to read 7 words? I didn't say 7 last words, just 7 words.
Sure.
Okay?
Practice, learn, children, hope, love, observe, teach.
Okay.
Blue, sky, grass, wind, trees, sun, rain.
Okay. Yeah.
Compassion, love, daily, summer, calm, learning, weather.
Okay.
Peace, love, happiness, daymaker, family, friends, Montessori.
Yeah.
Sunny, anxious, laughter, foggy, enlightened, full, faculty.
Okay.
Love,
Oh, I'm sorry.
respect, honesty, sincere, freedom, yourself.
Joanna?
Happy, muscle, purse, shuffle, smell, bite, camera.
Okay. Yeah.
Love, patience, understanding, play, rainbow, children, school.
Okay. Okay. What you see on the screen right now is a source that the English language actually has a whole history, 1,000 years of history for every word, and it's available online, www.oed.com. Isn't that interesting? It's the history of each word. And how many words are there? There are 600,000 words. And this work is over 1,000 years of English. That's amazing work. Somebody really likes to research the English language. And David Crystal, one of the linguists, has written cute little books. It's easy to read. One of them is called Spell It Out. And then he also wrote The Story of English in 100 words. Actually, it was more than 100, but he just called it. But that's also a good resource. Then, if you are familiar with the great courses, Anne Curzon is a wonderful speaker. She spoke about the secret life of words, English words and their origins. So, those are wonderful opportunities to continue from this workshop. So, the words you read was what I call a key experience. and you read it because those are the words that are important to you or mean a lot to you. But also, it's my key experience for what I call core, C-O-R-E, core words, something that we would talk about later. So what does that mean? The words you chose is an index of what is important to you. It's also a snapshot of your interest. And you know what I think? Collectively, the words we chose could be a snapshot of this particular group. And I was wondering if I went from room to room, whether we have the same snapshot, or from year to year, if I do the same exercise, whether it would vary. And for your class, you can do that too, and see what happens. On a large scale, it's also a snapshot of the community, because communities speak a certain way. Now, if you go to my hometown in Dawis Bohol, I'm sure you would hear about Carabao and the goat and who ran away, because those are what's important to them. Now, what does it mean? The words that you did not include, okay, they're not as important, or it's not at the tip of your tongue, and it's not something you encounter every day. However, the two most important words not listed are you and I. Communication is between you and me. Without you and me, there's really no communication. It takes two. And you and I decided what certain words mean. Otherwise, they are just utterances, not words, because words has to have meaning. Now, you know this, there are two forms of communication. There's nonverbal. You communicate with our words. A smile, a frown, a twist of the arm, the distance from each other, whether you're back-to-back, body posturing. They communicate a message. Actually, even how you arrange your room is a communication. Or how you arrange your kitchen is a communication. Verbal communication includes words, and that's language. Now, this is interesting. There are 6,000 to 8,000 languages in the world. Our language probably existed 6,000 years ago. Language in general existed about 150,000 to 200,000 years ago. So who were those people speaking this language? We don't know them, but Scientific American now calls it 200,000 years ago. The focus in this workshop is the English language, how it began. What influences did it have on its vocabulary, and the seeming confusion in spelling that we all experience can be decoded if we understand. So hang on tight. The power of language. Language is powerful. It can comfort you, heal you. It could also cause pain and sorrow. And language can be precisely understood. I had a sister who could actually explain to me, talking on the phone, and I would actually follow her direction, and I could actually use the brand new software that I just bought, that I don't know how to use. She was a marvelous communicator. I was wondering how I could do it, and how she could do it. But it could be mispronounced and misunderstood. So don't say, let's go and see the bitch. But what you really meant was, let's go and see the beach. And the reason I'm giving that example is I just came from California, and all my friends, Filipinos that is, they would say, bitch. Let's go to the bitch. And I said, bitch. And all of them thought that was the way. They reinforce each other. Language changes all the time. Study of how language works over time is a look at a cultural museum. Why do we make changes? Well, two basic reasons. One, we're just creative. We're not content with just the way we do. Or we just don't have the right word to express what's happening. So we thought we need to invent a new word. Now, for example, terms of endearment. Women are called as desserts. Cupcakes, honey, cookie, cheesecake, or small animals, bunny, kitten, chick. Men are referred to as stallions, emphasizing strength. Now, if you didn't like any of those endearment, you might institute a reform. However, it's not easy. It doesn't happen overnight. But it can happen. Look at feminism. In the last 100 years, they finally were able to change the names of occupations. Yeah. Fireman is now firefighter, to include both men and women. Mailman is now a mail carrier. Policeman is police officer, but actor and actor. By the way, there's really no real word called actress. Somebody had to call my attention to that. It's actor, actor. Did you listen to how the newscaster, I kept saying, but she's an actress. And somebody said, no, actor, actor. Teacher, you don't say teacheress. It's teacher, teacher. By the way, also, director, you don't say directors. I know Montessori called it in her book, but don't use that anymore. If you have business card, change it. It's director. We have changes in the vocabulary, in pronunciation, meaning, and spelling. However, the changes are rule-governed, not at random. Important. We have kept the integrity of our language in spite of all the changes we have made and will be making in the future. Okay, as I explain the next segment, you can think of how you can apply this to your class. These are called semantic shifts, the change in meaning without changing the actual spelling. Semantic generalization. What is a generalization? A word's meaning gets broader over time. For example, nepotism came from giving special favors to the nephew of the Pope from Nepos. But now it's broadened to mean any undue favors to your relative. It's nepotism. Escape from ex capere. Ex meaning out. Capere is your cloak. So you want to get out of your cloak. But now, that was the original small meaning. But now, anytime you're getting out of your confinement, which could be a prison, or it could be your parents, or it could be a situation. So that's broader. Semantic narrowing. Well, the meaning started out this way, and it narrowed over time. Man, okay, this is interesting for me. Used to mean any human being of either gender. Did you know that? In fact, there is a scriptural translation that says God went to the Garden of Eden and he saw two men, Adam and Eve. Isn't that interesting? It's a Hebrew transcription. So now it had narrowed down to male person. Woman, okay. The female word, Old English for female is with. Now you combine that with plus man is a female human being. So now you understand what the word woman is. It's a female human being. Wife used to mean any woman. Now it's narrowed down to married woman. Girl used to be a child of either sex. Now it has narrowed down to a female child. It's interesting, huh? Meat. Earlier, any kind of solid food. That's why you hear a statement like, give me some meat that I can chew on. Well, I'm vegetarian. That's okay. Just some solid food. Now it has narrowed down to food from flesh of animal. Okay, now that was our first, we had our generalization. We had our narrowing. Now we are on our third. Semantic shift. Pejoration. When a word's meaning gets more negative with time. For example, a maid used to mean young girl. Now it had downgraded to mean a servant. That's why you have the maid cleaning the rooms in the hotel. Now they're servants. Awful used to mean worthy of awe. Now it means bad, and then sometimes it even is worse. Amelioration, this is another semantic shift. When a word's meaning improves or becomes more positive over time, like nice. Nice started out to mean silly, simple. Then it ameliorated to mean extravagant in dress, just dress. Then later on, it improved to mean refined in taste. And now we mean virtuous, respectable. She's nice, not silly anymore. She's nice. Geek. The word geek used to mean circus freak. That's really its worst meaning. Then it improved to person regarded as worthless. That's an improvement from a circus freak. Then it improved to unsociable due to singular pursuit of interest. Then it improved to diligent student. Then, now, it meant person knowledgeable about something, especially computer. So you can see how it improves over time. Knight, K-N-I-G-H-T, knight. At first, it used to mean a boy, youth, servant, attendant. Then it improved to, in 1100, to mean follower of the king. Then later on, by the 16th century, it became a rank in nobility. That's why nowadays you can be knighted by the queen. There's still another shift. It's called metaphorical extension. A word's meaning is extended through metaphorical comparison with an object. The mouse in the computer, it looks like a mouse, especially with the tail. Now you don't have the tail in some computer models, but it's a good comparison. Window, well, a window, the computer doesn't really have shades or blinds, but it's the window to the world through its web and through surfing. A leaf is a metaphor for a page. That's why you say, turn a new leaf. Okay, here's something for you. The pen is mightier than the sword. A sword is here, a pen is here. The pen has no chance fighting with a sword. That's what Mark used to argue with me all the time. But you know that the meaning is not literal, but metaphorical. Let me tell you, one stroke of pen, Dr. Jose P. Rizal, the national hero of the Philippines, he wrote 2 Spanish novels, No Limitangere and El Filibusterismo, and he told it in a very nice narration, dramatic fashion that really shows the abuses of the Spanish governor and so on. that the people banded themselves and revolted. And that's how the Philippines got freed from the Spanish rule. So the pen is mightier than the sword. Meanwhile, of course, Emilio Aguinaldo and the others were still fighting too. Now, we make new words. This time we're through with the semantic shift. We make words longer, we make words shorter, and we combine word parts to make new words. How do we make words longer? We either combine the word parts we already have, we shorten them, or we have a functional shift. Functional shift means it's one part of speech and we just rearrange the sentence structure so this word has a different part of speech. Rewrite. Re means again. Write is a verb. So rewrite as a one word is to write again. So re is a prefix before the verb to form a new word. Reopen. Re, again, open. Reopen. Now, ice. Icy. You add the suffix y to change the noun ice into the adjective icy. Bump. So now you have a bump, but then you have bumpy. So it changes from noun to adjective. So all of these that I have mentioned to you can be an exercise in itself to the class. You can also add the suffix at the end of the word, ness, to bitter. So you have bitterness is the quality of being bitter. And ness added to dark is darkness. Darkness brought bitterness to the group. Compounding. Well, you know this. Two full words, root words, combine together, and they make a new word called compound words. And this is one of my favorite activities. I would have cupcakes on the table, and I would say, cupcake. It's a compound word, cupcake. It's not a cup, it's not a cake, but it's a cupcake. Okay, now you want a cupcake? You have to tell me what I'm saying. Sunflower, what is it? Sunflower, what is sunflower? Sunflower. Okay, have a cupcake. And so in order for them to get a cupcake, they will have to know a compound word or say something, which we had a lesson already last week. Rain and bow, rainbow, queen and bee, queen bee. By the way, they don't have to be one word joined together. It can be two words side by side, and it's still called compound word. Gold plus fish, goldfish. Earth plus quake, earthquake. Falling plus star, falling star. How do you make words shorter? So, AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome, can be read together as AIDS. And when you can read the initials of the words together, it's called an acronym. Now, some of you are into scuba diving, so what is scuba? S-C-U-B-A. Self-contained underwater breathing apparatus, but it can read as scuba. So you can study this and actually make it as an assigned homework. But then not all initials can be read as a word, so you just read it letter by letter. FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation. You know BFF, right? Best friend forever. Actually, I did not know that a girl had to explain to me, I have to go and see my BFF. And I said, huh? We're not serving beef here. And she had to explain to me. Thank God, now I know what it means. Now we can also clip words to make them shorter. So you can clip the beginning part or the end part. Lab is what's left after you clip the ending. Dorm. I hardly hear anybody say dormitory anymore. They just say dorm. And fridge, have you heard anybody say refrigerator? It's too long, right? Flu, did you know it came from influenza? Go to Walgreens and say, I would like an influenza shot. What? But if you say flu, oh, you mean a flu shot? Yeah, we have that. Phone, it's telephone. Phone. So in other words, we're kind of in a hurry and we just want to cut off some syllables. Or we can blend, we create new words. Smog is smoke plus fog. Motor, hotel is a motel. Brunch is a breakfast plus lunch. And blog is a web log. So you just cut this off, add the B to this, you got blog. Okay, Louis Pasteur invented the process of heating milk below the boiling point. No, don't boil it. It would curdle. But that process cuts off a good number of the microorganisms that would have multiplied at room temperature and make milk hazardous to our health. So because he invented the process, we call the process pasteurization. That's an example of eponymy, meaning a proper name is used as a regular word. Sandwich, well, you know what a sandwich is. Get a slice of bread, packed together, a slice of meat, eat it. Well, there's a story behind that. There was a man who was just busy gambling that he would not stop to eat a decent meal. So he would just go slice of bread, meat, then continue gambling. And he was the Earl of Sandwich. So the food that he made was called a sandwich. So now, I always have a game with my students. You want to say, oh, first you have to listen to this story. Now, so what is a sandwich? And if, okay, you can have a sandwich. My husband used to say, when are they going to eat? How many stories are you going to tell? Now, even if we speak the same language as the British, by the time it traveled to the United States, some of the words have been transformed, like, this is so funny, a man asked me for a jumper. I said, jumper? Why would he need a jumper? Because I was thinking of the lady's garment. But he meant a sweater. It's a good thing I said, draw it, please. He meant a sweater. Now, you go to the ATM to get cash. Over there, they go to cash point. Now, an aubergine is an eggplant. So there's some transformation of words and their meanings. Pronunciation also changes over time. Some people have a difficulty pronouncing the R. So you would say, please park the car. And if you listen closely, you don't know what he's saying until he said, show me, show me. Oh, you mean please park the car. And he said, why do you have to do all of that? So that was the reason. It was a struggle to lift the tongue because when we make the sounds, okay, look at my lips. You go, the consonants sometimes are closed. That's why it's called bilabial. B, mm. So it's how the lips are formed. But when we make the vowel sound, we just open our mouth. Ah, eh, ah. See that? The mouth was open the whole time. Now, when you hear those are called friction words. So now you have new vocabulary for your teachers. Now, we have, if you go to Tennessee, you really have to listen closely because they would say, would you like a pan? And he really meant pin. It's the vowel. Or I caught you, but he meant caught. I caught you getting crackers or cookies. And bag or beg. So when you shop in Tennessee, they would say, do you want your groceries in a bag? No, I want it in a bag. Yeah. So you have to listen carefully, otherwise you would misunderstand. The words we use are of two kinds. They're either native Germanic words. These are called core words. Now you know why I gave that key experience, core words. Or they are borrowed or loaned words from other languages. Core words are the most common words of the language. These include function words that hold up the language structure. Like do is just like an extra there, but it signifies the beginning of your message. Do you live here? So that's called function word. So the first 1,000 most common words in English are 80% in origin, Germanic origin, and only 20% are loan words. However, if you ask for the next 1,000 words, it's only 40% Germanic and the rest loan words. Okay, now this is what I was trying to ask you to write, and none of you thought of these because you were thinking of love, peace, and stuff. You didn't think these were important at all, but these are what holds the English language together. I was shocked too when I read it because I was thinking money, health, and all of those. Okay, these are the most important English words. The, and, I, see, I, to, of, a, you, see you, that, in, it, is, yes, was, this, but, on, well, he, have, for. Okay, you hear of the word etymology, and that tells you where the words came from. Now, when two languages were derived from a parent language, the parent language is called the etymon. See, hear that? Etymology, etymon. And the offspring languages are called cognate. That's etymon and cognate. Where did our language come from anyway? Well, it is supposed to have come from what we call the Proto Indo-European language. That's the mother of our group. This is not the only one, because the Asian have Proto-Asian. No, Proto-Indo-Asian language. So they have another family of languages. So from that Proto-Indo-European language, it brought down families such as Indo-Iranian, Balto-Slavic, Celtic, Germanic, Italic. And from the Germanic, you have West Germanic. Well, there are several other Germanic. You have North Germanic, East Germanic. Anybody from Germany here? And West Germanic. And from West Germanic, you have English. So that's where our language came from. So in the 5th century, 3 tribes sailed from West Germany, and these are Jutes, Angles, and Saxons. So did you hear the word Angles? That's where English came from. That's where it came from. I don't know whether they bought out the Jutes and the Saxons so that their names won't be used. But anyway, we just use one of them, Angles. They brought their language from Germany to England, to Britain. Here it is. There's Ireland, and that's Britain. However, the Britain at that time was occupied by other people. They were occupied by Celts, and the Celts were pushed out by whoever came. And at that time, even if they were pushed out, they had already left their legacy in languages, in words that have been left behind. So, for example, the name of the river, Thames, was from the Celts. Glen means valley. Cross, did you know that? The word cross for Christianity came from them, from the Celts. And they introduced the progressive tense, ing, ending in ing, running, working. There were other influences as well. These are the Vikings. You have the Scandinavian countries, Finland, Sweden, Norway, and you have Denmark, and Netherlands. Okay, so before the West Germans came, there were the Celts. But before the West Germans came, who came? The Vikings. And they really battled the English for 200 some years. Finally, King Alfred made peace with them and said, okay, this pack of land, we will give this to you so you can live peacefully. And you call that Danelaw. And then the fighting ended. Why they didn't do that right away, right? So the language of the Vikings that they left behind are called Old Norse. You know, when you go to a dictionary, start looking into origin, and you will find Old Norse, French, Latin, Greek origin. Old English had sh for shirt. This is Germany. And this is Italy. Long before the West Germans sailed to Great Britain, they were already trading in their land with the Romans. And out of that trade, here are the words: early trading, borrowed words before the 5th century. Well, the French later on introduced war. Here's the big picture. And here's the ship. And here, Scandinavia, the Vikings, British, Ireland. And here's German and Italian, Latin, France. This is Spain, Portugal. You can see that they're all connected to each other, but each one has a different language. So you want to know how they develop language? Well, it was really the Romans that would conquer one after the other and then would live there. And the phenomenon of two mutually unintelligible population, they don't understand each other's language, living together, eventually invent their own words because they have to communicate somehow. And if they stay in that condition somehow, they develop a whole vocabulary. And year after year, they improve on that vocabulary, and finally, a linguist will say, you are now a new language. So that's how you have, well, French has been there already. That's how you have Spanish and Portuguese language. However, in 597, Saint Augustine came to convert pagans to Christianity. And here are the words of that time. That's Italy. Okay. The Latin influence includes religion. Latin language was deemed important and was taught to the children. And the English thought they want to rewrite their words using the Roman alphabet. They were just in love with the Romans, that they want to convert everything into Roman influence. But the basic problem was there were only 23 letters of the Roman alphabet, and there are 44 sounds of the English language. But they loved Romans so much that they were willing to work and see if it works. So this is the Roman alphabet. In the beginning, they did not have J. And K, Y, and Z were used to write words that were Greek in origin. J, U, and W were added later on. So if there were, how many did I say? 22, 23? And then you plus 3. That's why you have 26. 26 letters of the alphabet. But how many sounds we have to make? 44 sounds. So we have a long way to go. So what did they do? Well, some letters have to have more than one sound. And some sounds have to be represented by more than one letter. Now, this is what we call the Old English alphabet. And this is the F, thorn, yod, win. And they have a whole complement of alphabet. So how else can they fill up the rest of the sounds of the 44? Well, they had to go back to their old English and use them. So that was one way. Another way, okay, meanwhile, the French came, and in 1066, they conquered, and William the Conqueror was crowned King of England. And in 1250, there was widespread use of French, especially in the court and nobility. Here's France, and here's the big picture. And here are the domains of French influence. More. Actually, they just introduced words, just like the Romans did. So they were just pushing aside the Old English language. Okay, now, when a chef serves the meat of the cow, it's called a beef. Cow is that animal in the pasture. When they serve the meat of pig, they call it pork. And the meat of calf, they call it veal. And meat of sheep, mutton. Of deer, venison. Chicken, poultry. So, I was thinking before, maybe they just wanted to respect me and my fellow vegetarians. That's why they don't want to say, do you want to eat some pig? I thought that was the reason. But the reason was the chefs were French, so they gave those words. But the peasants raised the cow, the pig, the calf, the sheep in the fields. So they gave those words. So now, it wasn't out of respect for me. I thought I was that important. And they also used double words to make sure they were understood. So they would say safe and sound, because safe is Old French and sound is Anglo-Norman. Okay, here are the top 50 most common content words: verbs, adjectives, nouns, and adverbs. Okay, see the ones in blue are Old Norse, and the ones in orange are French. The rest are the new English language. Now, the French came and they were just so power crazy. They said, we don't like this old English letters that you were using. Out. The scribes took them all out, and they introduced French style of spelling, which means use a lot of letters. You notice when you're trying to read and you try to read it as English, you don't read those. They're just decoration, you know. So the French have their way of adding letters that you don't pronounce. Now, two things happen in the world. It's called 100 Years' War and Black Death. And these two events changed the whole thing because a lot of people died. And a lot of people who would have taught French died. So English became important. So there's a rise of nationalism. In 16th century, another event happened. Renaissance came. There was a wide interest in knowledge. It's called the Age of Enlightenment. And they were in Latin. And English was not considered important, but they didn't have enough English words to translate the works. So they said, let's improve English. But how do we improve English? Oh, let's just borrow all those words and make it part of our vocabulary. So that's how English got to have a lot more words, because they really wanted to be part of the Renaissance activity. And these are all the words. Greek. There are three ways the Greek has influence. We can borrow directly from Greek words, or borrow through Latin borrowing, or the Greek mythology, and I will talk more about Greek mythology. This could be another lesson you can have, just one at a time. Achilles' heel. The weakness of the heel was due to the fact that the mother held him on his heels to dip him in the river Styx to make him invisible. Unfortunately, that part held was not immersed in that river, that magical river, so he became vulnerable in those parts. So that's called the Achilles heel. And I think a story like that, and then you can go into moral lessons, and each one of these are interesting, all of these. So now we have words borrowed from other languages. We have French, Spanish. Do you know that hurricane, banana, tobacco, potato came from Spanish and Portuguese? And the Dutch gave us smuggle, cruise, easel, etch. The Italian gave us violin, solo, giraffe, sonnet. Now, these are the countries speaking English. The inner circle are the countries that consider English as their first language. And those countries are US, British Isles, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa. That's the inner circle. That's the yellow. Then the green is called the outer circle. English as official second language, like India, Nigeria, Singapore, Cameroon, and Zimbabwe. Then you have the outer circle. English is an important foreign language, and that includes China, Japan, Germany, Philippines, but they didn't list it. I don't know why. Germany, most of Scandinavia. English is studied, but considered as a foreign language, which is different from a second language or the first language. What I'm trying to say is that the history of the English language was a work of several countries, several cultures, and each one trying to make communication possible in a new place, but at the same time accommodating because they are foreign language at that time. And this whole thing is available in my website, and you can study it more closely. And if you need to know my website, just get a business card. Phonics. We think English is difficult, correct? Because if you just think of it as random collection of letters, then it's difficult. But if you know that they're following some rules called phonics, it's doable. So cat, at. In the beginning, had been used as CH. So they might spell child as C-I-L-D because the C stood for ch, like a chick. And g had to have a double duty. It can go for a hard g for go, or if it's followed by E or I, it is pronounced as J. They didn't have the J sound at that time. And then they added the alphabet later. So giraffe, magic, would have that sound. The I follows the G or the, yeah, both. Okay. Then you have the H. If it's in the beginning, it's no problem. But later on, it became associated with G. And the I became long I, so you have night and high. And then it also was made to stand for the letter F. So you have rough. And sh used to be represented by S plus C. And then so much confusion later on, the French actually gave us sh for SH for sh. Now, we have A, E, I, O, U as vowels, and we usually call them as short vowels, but then each one of them also has a long vowel sound. So how do you represent long vowel sounds? So at first they thought, long sound. We just doubled them because then it would be longer. So they thought that's how they represent long sounds. So double E would be E as opposed to eh. Or double O would be oo. But it was impossible to have double A or double I or double U. So that was their first idea of representing long vowel sounds to double the letters. And they were only successful for double E and double O. So here, feet, eat, feet. Now, the second idea was to add a silent E and making the vowel before the consonant a long vowel sound. So we have a, or to add a diacritical mark, that long dash on top of the letter says A instead of A. So that's apron. Then there's still not enough way to represent long vowel sounds, so they combine two vowels, AI, to make A. So R, ain, rain. Then how do you differentiate long vowel from short vowel? Well, they had an idea for that too. When you have double consonant, like in this example, you have L, the vowel before that is a short vowel. So you have H, I, L, hill. Now, because it's not doubled, the consonant is not doubled, this is a long vowel sound. So it's ho, ping. But this is double consonant, so this is ha, ping. Now, her name is Anne. You don't spell Anne with A-N, right? It's A-N-N, right? Because double consonant makes the A short A. The double consonant makes the vowel that precedes it a short vowel. Now, if the consonant is already at the end, you don't have to double it. You don't go NT, ant. No, it's enough. Now, where did the final CK come from? Well, what if the last sound is K? You don't put KK, you put a CK. That's why you have deck. At first, he used double O to indicate words like boots, but also it was used to indicate other words like book. So one was long double O and short double O. Bread. Bread was always spelled this way, except it was pronounced as braid. And then they said, no, forget about that spelling, let's just pronounce it as bread. But then they had a way of retaining the spelling but changing the pronunciation. So that's how most of our confusion came from, because they kept the spelling but changed the pronunciation. Okay, here are the other ways that the French have introduced sounds and new forms. Okay, king, N-G. You don't really hear the G sound. You don't pronounce king, G. No, no, no. The two N-G clusters says king, and queen is always spelled with Q-U. Then the French eliminated the old English replacements for letters. They said, those look ugly. Here, use this French spelling. However, when you have letters that have been in use already, it was hard to eliminate it. So donut, they just spell it the way it is, but the GH was silent. So now, this is how we got silent letters. They were already there, and nobody had the nerve to change the spelling. But we want to change the pronunciation, so just skip the spelling and just make it silent. See, it was everybody's game, because they were trying so hard to transform the spoken English into spellable Roman language, Roman English-sized language. So everybody really worked hard, especially the nuns. Now, they also like C to stand for S. That's why you have ice. See, you can hear the S sound. And you have prince, fence, balance. Then, finally, they invented the letter J and added it to the alphabet. But the words that were spelled with GE and JI still stayed. That's why we have different ways of spelling, because whatever was invented, you know what I think? They were like the IBM. They don't fire anybody. So whatever stood firm, they just kept it. Now, TH, they discovered that it had two sounds, the mother and thin. So they have to have differentiation. So my advice is have a lesson just to differentiate mother from thin and thick, and father and gather. Just for that. Meanwhile, they found out that there were words that sounded the same, but obviously were different words. So they said, hey, if they are different, let's spell them all differently. So now we have what we call homophones. Now, bear is a big, massive mammal, and bear is stripped of covering. Homophones, pause. This is a pause for a water drink. Pour, transfer liquid from one container to the other, and pores are openings, especially on the skin. Now, when you cry, you have tears from your eyes, as opposed to when you rip, that's a tear. So this is another nice lesson too. Now, however, the English did something else. In their infatuation to the Romans, they now called spelling through analogy. Let's really take a look and make our spelling just like a Roman. I don't know why, but they really wanted to do that. So, for example, would and should were always spelled with the L, but could was without an L, so they said, hey, let's make it alike, since they're kind of in the same family. So let's add the L. So now could is spelled with the L, C-O-U-L-D. Can you see how creative our forefathers were? They really had nothing better to do than to devise ways of spelling. How did we get silent B? Okay, it used to be that we would actually pronounce both MB as written. However, somebody decided, hey, we don't need to pronounce the B. Let's just skip the spelling and just make it silent. Also, we wanted to copy the French. The French, like I told you, they always have to add letters. So they always have the U. So they have guide, G-U-I-D-E, and guard, G-U-A-R-D. And the English always spelled build, B-I-L-D. So he said, hey, let's spell it with a U, B-U-I-L-D. Okay, now you know that when you pronounce the word Thomas, you don't say, right? It's silent because it came from the Latin, Thomas, and then they added the H to make it English-sized, but they still pronounce it like Latin, so it's Thomas. I did not know that. I used to call somebody Thomas, and he would always say, my name is Thomas. I said, yeah, that's what I called you. No, you called me with the H, and I did not realize that. Thyme, you know the spice thyme? We have an H there, but you don't say thyme, we just say thyme. And the river Thames. Okay, so these are my suggestions for what we call linguistic spelling. After listening to this, what do we take out of it? Well, first of all, integrate spelling with reading, writing, and discourse. We have a game in Toastmasters where we pick a topic from the hat, and you invent a story based on the topic. I am suggesting that you do that too, as another exercise, because we're so bound with pencil and paper, reading and writing, but we're not doing discourse that much. Then, once you have a new word, incorporate it into grammar and the role of sentences. And the spelling lists, oh, I look at the spelling list and I said, no wonder these kids could not spell. There's no rhyme nor reason why that list was made. It was just like somebody's cute idea after coffee. But when you have a spelling list, it should be constructed either according to a phonics pattern or a frequency of use or words related to a topic or part of speech. So if you don't do anything after this lecture, please revise your spelling list and make it more useful. See the big picture. That means integrating all discourse, reading, writing, and teach whenever somebody makes a mistake. What do? Circle it with red. That's it, right? That's the end of the lesson. Actually, you should just sit down and explain and tell a story. Now you have a lot of stories to tell of how this came to be. Oh, I know, you like to just skip the B, but let me tell you a story. It used to be, okay. Now, with a little story, there's more to hold on to, a handle to grab on. They will remember the spelling. And use etymology where appropriate. Don't do them all at once. Sometimes etymology, sometimes story. Most important, make lessons fun, varied activity. But what I'm trying to say is, the more you're having fun, the more creative you are, the more the enthusiasm builds up, and the more they will catch the lesson. Because there's that field of energy that's going into the class rather than, huh? Oh, 3, you got C. Oh, you got an F. And they make it in red. Forget, I always ask my class to write in pencil. And then when they make a mistake, I will ask them to come over and I would have a little lesson. And I said, okay, now rewrite this and come back to me. And of course, it would be correct, right? And I said, study this and take the test again tomorrow and I will change your grade. And would you like me to just keep your grade that way? Or you want to retake the test and said, oh, I'll retake the test. But by retaking, they would have learned it a little better with more reinforcement. Because after all, we're not for grades. We're for them learning. And so they all got 100. And they all got A. But they all can spell. Okay, thank you very much.